For decades, the way we received critical weather information was by tuning into the local news and listening to our favorite broadcast meteorologists.
A separate severe thunderstorm warning in effect until 6:15 this evening. This also has a threat for 60-mile-per-hour straight-line wind.
But in today's digital age, the way we consume weather data has radically transformed. We're now just a swipe or a click away from real-time radar images, hour-by-hour forecasts, and push notifications for severe storm warnings, all tailored to our exact location. Many former TV weather personalities have fully embraced this digital shift, leaving their green screen days behind to forge new careers interpreting the atmospheric sciences through online channels. But in this vast new landscape, how do we separate the facts from the fiction, the reliable from the ridiculous? How can we make sure the information we are getting is coming from a trusted source? This week, I'm teaming up with another weather podcast to explore the past, present, and future of digital meteorology. Sean Sublett and Joe Martucci will join me as we navigate the turbulent skies of online weather resources. Join us on this special crossover episode as we go off the radar and across the sky on a journey through the digital world of weather. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie, and you're listening to Off the Radar, a production of the National Weather Desk. On the show, we dig deep into topics about weather, climate, the ocean, space, and so much more. Our goal is to help you better understand the weather and to love it as much as we do. All right, well, today's a very exciting podcast episode because not only is it an episode of Off the Radar, it's an episode of Across the Sky. And if you haven't heard of that, you should check it out on all of the platforms where you can find podcasts. Another great weather podcast. I'm always watching these guys, and I finally talked you guys into a collaborative episode as well. So we have Sean Sublett and Joe Martucci, two friends of mine as well. So I'm thrilled to just get to hang out with you guys for a few minutes and chat about weather and digital meteorology. Sean, can you quickly give us a little background on you? Because you're a former broadcast man as well, but also kind of dabbled in the climate world.
Right. So yes, my name is Sean Sublett. I worked 20 years on the air as a broadcast meteorologist in the Roanoke, Lynchburg, Virginia television market between the NBC and the ABC affiliates. I got out of that line of work in 2015, then worked in climate science communications for about 6 years at Climate Central there in Princeton, New Jersey. But I got the opportunity to come back and do digital meteorology in my hometown of Richmond, Virginia a couple of years ago. And it was something new, something different, and wanted to have that opportunity to do something different in my hometown. And that's kind of how I got to where we are today. You know, our corporate company, our corporate said, we want you guys to start a podcast because there's 4 meteorologists. So we're like, okay, we'll start a podcast. So that's what we've been doing. And it's growing like anything else. It seems like everybody has a podcast nowadays. But we've got a little audience and it's growing and we're very happy with it. And we're happy to have you, Emily, as well, because as you know, it's a small business. It is a small business, even though it's nationwide. If you don't know somebody, you know somebody that knows that person.
For sure. And isn't it the beauty of digital meteorology, too, that we're all just kind of sitting at home where we want to live right now, having this collaborative podcast, including Joe, our quote unquote Jersey boy, as Sean called you. So, Joe, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, I mean, I was born in New Jersey. I was raised in New Jersey. I went to school in New Jersey. I work in New Jersey. And I'm here podcasting in New Jersey. So
just to be clear, what state are you in right now?
I think I'm in New Jersey right now.
Okay, cool.
You know, it's
cool.
interesting. So the last time I saw you, Emily, was at the American Meteorological Society weather conference in Baltimore. You know, that was the last time I pumped my own gas. So that's about 2 months ago now we're going on, where I haven't touched a gas pump since then. And I'm not really planning on it for a while here. So hoping that was a once in a lifetime kind of thing. But so I went to Rutgers, graduated with a degree in meteorology. And actually I started out in, I'll even take a little step back there. I actually started as a TV reporter for I don't know if we're going to see this, but like this long, for a local station here in New Jersey. Didn't really work out. Like, it wasn't weather. I was new. I didn't really know a lot about reporting, so it was fine. But ended up working in weather consulting for 4 years in New Jersey. We had clients like the Philadelphia Eagles, MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. NASA was a client. And it really like taught me a lot about how to forecast and how to communicate, because when you have people paying you to do stuff, like you really got to be, on your game. I mean, we're on our game now, of course, but when there's real dollars coming at you, you had to learn how to communicate. So, I worked, in forecasting consulting, but also working a lot with our radio stations that we had. I did sales. I was selling our weather products, social media. We had a popular Snapchat at the time. This was when Snapchat was like super big. I feel like it's kind of declined over the years, but we had some fun. And then, after 4 years there, I took the job at the Press of Atlantic City, here. And I kind of like to say I've like worked in a BC era and an AD era of weather. And that changed when Sean and Kirsten and Matt, who's on our weather team, came along. For about 4 years, I was pretty much working by myself. I was using PowerPoint to make all of our videos and stuff. Now we have a full team. We're doing the pod. We have an IBM Max graphics system. I'm sure we'll talk about all that. But it's really been cool to be on this kind of leading wave of weather here. And I'll just say real quick too, we've had a meteorologist since 2014 at the Press of Atlantic City. We had a meteorologist before me. And at the time in 2014, we think, but we can't say with certainty, that we were the first local quote unquote newspaper with a full-time meteorologist on staff. We don't know that for sure. But we think it could be. And that was after the NBC station in Atlantic City shut down and we hired a chief meteorologist. So it's been a really interesting journey here in our corner of New Jersey with weather.
Yeah, it's interesting because I knew both of you separately. I didn't really know until maybe the AMS conference a couple of years ago that you worked together. So you're under this umbrella of a newspaper company, correct?
Yeah. So it's odd because, as most of us know, the media business is changing rapidly, dynamically. Some organizations are trying to reinvent themselves. There is massive consolidation within the industry. Everyone who has worked in this industry, whether it's in the classical newspaper, whether it's radio, whether it's television or cable, they've seen it and been impacted by it. So for us, working for what I would say is a traditional newspaper organization, our company is called Lee Enterprises, and it owns about 70 properties across the country. 10 in my home state of Virginia, and we're kind of headquartered, the Virginia branch, if you will, is in Richmond. But we have several hubs across the country where we're doing work. But Richmond is one of them, which is why I'm here to help with our statewide focus in Virginia. But what we've kind of been brought in to do, in addition to what Joe has been doing, there are two other meteorologists across our company, to not just write, but increasingly do video forecast for these properties. So the four of us kind of split up the country and we do forecast videos where the weather is most impactful, high impact weather. The idea for us is we need to be there when the weather is not always volatile, but when it is changing the most rapidly. The weather apps, love them or hate them, have come a long way and they're not bad. But they do not do well in rapidly changing weather situations. So that's where we come in. We're not going to do a forecast for every single of these 70 properties every day, but we do have the resources now to step in when the weather is volatile or rapidly changing, and as they say, value add to what is already out there. So that's kind of what we've been brought in to do, and we've been going with this strategy for about 12 or 18 months now.
It's interesting because I think there was a time where perhaps newspapers were thought of as becoming irrelevant in this industry. And now I feel like you guys are more relevant and, people are able to access your information more easily than maybe a local TV station. It's right there whenever they need it, wherever they are,
Yeah, it's funny. So when I left my consulting job at WeatherWorks, I remember someone specifically asking me like, well, aren't you afraid that like the company's not going to exist anymore? And I still remember that. And I was like, no, I'm pretty confident. And I think that just holds true to what we've known in television for decades, which is weather sells. People tune into the television news for weather. So why don't we have it here? In we'll say newspaper. I keep using quotes. We're still trying to figure out a word. I think digital daily might be the way for it. But, going back decades, traditionally the weather stories were covered by like the Cub reporter or the reporter that the editor didn't really like or something like that. It was just kind of like, go ahead and do this weather story. But people see the value, at the leadership level of what we're doing, and that people come to see it. And to Sean's point, we're doing a lot of these videos, but the amount of, if you compare it to television news, what I think is nice is that, you're saving all the time you're doing by, let's say you're doing 15 hits in a morning or an afternoon show, right? You're saving all that time and those hours, you're rolling it into one video, and then you can put out a piece of content about, something else, or go into another market and talk about those areas. There's a lot of great things about, working in traditional broadcast, and there's a lot of great things about working here in this platform as well. And, Emily, I mean, what you're doing now with Sinclair is kind of what a lot of these television stations are doing now too, right? Where you're having people who are focusing only on the digital, which is exactly where you're fitting in and working on this, on the, Off the Radar podcast too.
Yeah. And, it's funny, you guys introduce yourselves. I don't know that I've ever introduced myself to my listeners on Off the Radar. I just kind of jump in and tell them about the way smarter expert that I'm about to interview. So, but my background is broadcast meteorology, like Sean's is and like Joe's. And I spent 15 years doing that in local TV and national too. And then decided I was turning 40. I'm retiring from TV. I'm not doing this anymore. It was enough of a wear and tear on my lifestyle and my family. And so I just wanted to stop waking up at 2 a.m., decided I'm going to change over and figure something else out. And lo and behold, a year later, this enterprise with Sinclair popped up where they decided we're going to start just like a weather enterprise. It's going to be the National Weather Desk. We're going to have a team of 6 that works on just gathering weather information. And we don't forecast at all. That's not our thing. We focus on the love of weather, the how, the why, ooh, that's super cool. So that's the goal is, cool video, cool explainers, making people love weather, making people love science. So we pull a lot of station scientist type content in as well, which I really enjoy. And then like bosses came to me and said, we want to start a podcast. And I said, yes, I'm on it. I'll do it. So it was great because I had wanted to start a podcast for many years, and they really gave me the backing and the tools to do it. So I went from, my skill set being just on TV and forecasting to now I edit. Now I am, good with audio equipment. Now I can do social media content, and I kind of know how to work TikTok. Still a work in progress there, but I'll never figure that one out totally. But it's so much fun, and it's like scratching a creative itch that I never ever knew I had, but it's very, very fulfilling. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm given the freedom every day to just kind of come up with what I want content-wise and delivery-wise.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the draw there is that you do get a little more, actually a lot more creative freedom than you might have gotten as a television or broadcast meteorologist. Every shop is different, of course. But the other thing, and you alluded to this, Emily, is the hours are pretty good. When you do meteorology, it is exceedingly difficult to have a quasi-regular, 8:30 to 5:30, 9 to 6, 7 to 4 kind of job. Prime time for weather is still early morning. People wake up, get the sleepers out of their eyes. What's it like out there? What do I have to be ready for? So, a lot of meteorologists are up at, as you were, and as I was for a long time, 2:30 in the morning to be ready to do, 2 or 3 hours on television. And then conversely, some people don't get home until midnight or 11 p.m. in the central time zone. So there is value in that. As I'm getting older as well, there's unquestionably value in that. So not necessarily, and it's not that we don't jump in on off hours when the weather is bad, but because we are serving a national audiences regionally, we're not going to be able to jump in and do coverage for an event that lasts an hour. We're generally not going to jump in unless it's a cataclysm in a particular large city. We're probably not going to be live streaming an event. But what we want to do is be there to answer those questions that people are having that they're not getting answered somewhere else.
I'm curious too what you guys consider, because today we're talking all about digital meteorology and this transition from broadcast meteorology to digital meteorology. So I think I've always kind of been curious what everyone considers digital meteorology, because I think what all we're doing is, but so many things at this point now fall under that umbrella, right?
I think we're like almost at this point where digital and broadcast meteorology and news in general is just kind of all in one. I mean, I love news. I love reading it. I love watching it, but I'm doing it through digital mediums most of the time. I'm on YouTube. Shout out to my YouTube premium subscription. It's a lifesaver. I love it. Well worth my $25 a month. But anyway, but I'm watching stuff from organizations like, CBS or ABC or Wall Street Journal. I'm just watching it on YouTube or I'm reading it online. So I think we're kind of at this point now where everything's, almost the same. I think there's still a difference, but, digital meteorology, to get to your question directly, I think digital meteorology to me is pretty much any content that's made natively for online use. So that can mean social media, that can mean, a Substack, that can mean a news website, it can be a news YouTube channel, whatever. The challenges with that is like anything on the internet, what's right, what's wrong, who's legit, who's not. And that's something that, we just have to consistently combat. And in addition to sometimes fighting with the weather apps that are out there too. I say something, I might get a response. Well, my weather app said this. Well, I'm not your weather app. So who do you trust, the weather app or me? I mean, sometimes I've said that, it's like, oh, well, I'm just trying to verify, to Sean's point. And I've learned a lot from Sean. I should start from the beginning. I'm so happy Sean's here. When he joined us 2 years ago, I was like, yes, I said, this is great. This is just what we needed. But, one thing Sean is correct about is that, yes, most of the time your weather app will be okay for what you need. We know that. We get that. I think we're beyond the point of trying to fight that. But what can you provide value added? Think about calling that 800 number and you just want to talk to the representative, but you keep getting the keypad of hell. It's like, press 2, press 3, press 4. You just want to talk to somebody. You just keep hitting 0. There's still a need for that in weather. There's still a need for that in a lot of things in life. And I think we're always going to continue to be relevant. But I'm interested to see what you think about that, Emily.
Well, okay, so have you guys heard of this weather app called What the Forecast?
No.
I hadn't either. And so my husband the other day was like, when I tell people you're a meteorologist, their number one question is, and I was thinking a million different things. He said, has she ever heard of this app called WTF?
Is this a South Carolina thing?
No, it is not. It is very national. I don't think any meteorologists are involved in this app, but it comes up with an algorithm and basically throws cuss words into a forecast. So you can ask this app, what's the forecast at my location? And it will, very crudely respond with whatever the forecast is. Usually, relatively accurately because they're pulling from somewhere. They're pulling the forecast from somewhere. But their whole thing is that, it's like it's bleeping raining.
Well, it's funny you bring that up.
Are you looking it up right now, Sean?
Yeah.
I know you are.
No, I'm not. That's more Joe's thing. But to your point, a number of years ago, I was still on TV at the time, and you're trying to get people to pay attention to warnings when they come out, the tornado warning, the severe thunderstorm warning. And I remember posting this online. I said, I think every severe weather warning should be spoken by Samuel L. Jackson in just that special way that he does. And let's just leave it, because I love all of his work, but he has a reputation for certain things, fair or not.
Well, it's cool, though, because it's a good reminder that people also want to be entertained. And they want a little bit of lightheartedness when it comes to all of this stuff, too. And it's nice for me, you were talking about watches and warnings, to not have to deal with that anymore. Like, it's taken this pressure off of me to constantly have to be on when it comes to getting warning information out or heading into the station and going wall to wall for hurricane coverage. Because I can think about the deeper story instead. I can think, well, I could do like a climate story about warmer ocean temperatures, or I can talk about, let's pull up this educational YouTube video we did last year that shows the difference between a watch and a warning. So I can think about this other content that's going to help educate our viewers and our listeners rather than just having to go, okay, well, there's, the warning is until 5:55, the monotony of having to deal with staying on with those warnings. Once you get rid of that, I could actually remind people of, information that they need to know, that background information, educational information. And then it makes me really appreciate weather again, too.
I think we're all pretty well positioned for the future, especially with warning communication. I mean, that's another thing with apps, right? Everybody's going to get that tornado warning or a severe thunderstorm warning on their phones. But this is a bigger topic, but we saw, people that we need to do a better job of educating what is a warning and what's a watch. Is a watch, that's the age old thing that I think the National Weather Service is doing some things that will help to address that. But it still comes down to communication and understanding these things. So
stay tuned to the AMS broadcast conference in June for more information.
That's right.
Yeah. But going back to the videos that we're able to do, let's say some area of the country is under the threat of severe weather. You're up in the morning, we call slight risk, moderate risk, but there's some area of the country that is likely going to get some severe thunderstorms or tornadoes later in the day. We could put out a video and go, this is what you should do if it happens. We could remind people first thing in the morning, plan now in case it happens. If you get a warning, if your phone goes off, this is what you should do, because that's how most people are going to be getting the information now. So trying to think about how individuals get weather information now, how they sometimes are surprised, try to reach them where they are. And back to the point that Joe was making about digital versus broadcast, this is also very generational, right? I mean, each one of us is probably about 10 years apart, and each one of us consumes media a little bit different. I mean, my mom's a boomer, and she kind of misses the newspaper, but we still get a lot of folks who are, 70 and older who still get the paper and they want to see it in the paper. And, I've got kids in their early 20s. They're like, whatever, Dad, it needs to be on TikTok. Well, worse, they're not even on those anymore. They've gone straight to Discord. They're gone to Reddit. They're on Twitch.
I think you blew Emily's mind there.
I don't even know what these are. I've never.
See, exactly.
I've heard of Reddit.
So there are so many places to get information, and you have to decide where your time is best spent, in which application, which video. Is it text? Is it audio only? It's all over the place. And that's where the challenge is meeting people where they are, and try and decide where your time is best spent to reach certain audiences. That is a huge, huge challenge.
Yeah, and then enter the AMS, the American Meteorological Society, a few years back. Erica Groh-Che brought up this idea of we need to address this before it gets ahead of us. There's this need for this distinction for the public to know who is a reputable source for digital content, for digital meteorology. And I think actually, Joe, you were like a big reason for this, because I was on the broadcast board at the time and we were getting your tapes and they didn't really fit the mold for the CBM, the Certified Broadcast Meteorologist seal. But you were so good and you were doing what you needed to be doing, but it was in this different format. I think it kind of, made people think, well, there's this need for something else here. It didn't fit the radio situation. It didn't fit the broadcast situation. It was this whole digital realm. So Erica came up with this idea of the CDM, the Certified Digital Meteorologist seal. And all three of us, I believe, were on the ad hoc committee. Some took a bigger role, Joe, in organizing this seal. It's now active. It is an active seal. There's a number of people that already have it. Joe was the first to get this CDM seal. So congratulations, Joe, on your CDM.
It was well done by everybody.
And I think Sean and I are somewhere in the process right now on gathering material. Yeah.
In the queue.
We're in the queue. So yeah, I think this is really good. And I think it'll be interesting to see also how many broadcast meteorologists decide to get the CDM seal, like myself, like Sean, who had the CBM. We already took the test, which I feel like is the hard part. It's this exam, a meteorology exam, and you have to pass. And then you have to submit these works that demonstrate that you are a reputable source for digital weather material. So it's such a broad community that it's, Joe, you certainly had a hard time, a big job to do there when it came to these submissions and what's accepted and the rubric. But I think it's in a good place, and I'm excited to see this in the future and if it kind of explodes the way that the CBM did,
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for. And, I think just taking a step back, right? What are these seals? I mean, they're professional certifications. Think about everybody, you guys listening out there. You guys probably have a professional certification in your field, or you did at some point in time. It's the same thing. You want a licensed plumber to come over your house and work. Well, you want a, certified digital or broadcast meteorologist to tell you what's going on. We have a committee, right? That we're working on, perfecting this process. It's an exam and then submission of your work. We have at the time of recording, I think we have a couple dozen people who have applied. But this is only going to expand. And what we really wanted to do is, it's not just for people like Sean and I who, and even you, Emily, who are working for a news organization. It's for people who are doing this on their own, who have their own consulting or media business, who also want to show people that this is, legit. Steve DiMartino from NJNYPA Weather he earned his not too long ago. He has been waiting for a long time because he couldn't get the CBM, not because he's not good, but because it just wasn't relevant for his work, but he's still forward facing with the public. He was so happy when he got it. He has a whole 11-minute video on how much it meant to him to get this. So that, that was really cool to see. I think we're all cognizant that we live in an era where we're challenging the status quo. And we're hoping that with the seal, we can say that these are the people that you want to turn to out there and that are, backed by this organization that's the largest in the United States for weather and really the largest in North America. And, I'm so happy to be, number one. It was a surprise and a great honor at the same time. And like I said, I'm trying to follow in Sean's footsteps, who was a chair of the broadcast board back in the day, and Emily, who just came off of that. And, we're working with our own digital board to work on things like awards for people for excellence in digital meteorology and other events that we could do throughout the year.
Cool. Sean, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Just to Joe's point is that everything continues to evolve. And sometimes I don't even like the word evolve because that implies that it's changing slowly over time. And it's not. It's changing dramatically over time. When I started on the air in the mid-90s, I could not have imagined we would be at this place that we are 30 years later. And who knows where it's going to go from here. I think one of the big questions we're all going to find out in the next 5 to 10 years is how much artificial intelligence is going to change this game entirely in terms of the quality of the forecast, in addition to how it is communicated to the public. Going back to that WTF app. I mean, anybody who can write code and with enough gumption, if you will, to use an old folks word, can write an app, pull in the data, and present it however they want. But this is also why we kind of want the seal, so people have some inkling there is a little bit of professionalism behind this person or that person. I'm often asked, well, what app do you use, Sean? And I said, well, actually, I don't use weather apps that much because I want to get into the core data first. I said, I do have a couple of apps on my phone. I have the one that every meteorologist has Sing along if you know the words.
Radar
scope. Every meteorologist has radar scope. But I also have WeatherBug just to get the warnings when they come out. And not just the high impact warnings. But the river flood warning, the red flag warnings, the fog advisories. That's why I get that. Not necessarily for the day-to-day forecast. It's more like, the Weather Service decided to pull the trigger and put out the red flag warning yesterday. Got it.
Yeah, we talked about how the CDM is a good indicator of this is a reputable source. So I'm curious if you guys have an opinion or can offer folks advice on what might not be a reputable source and any red flags they should look for when they are seeing information on Facebook or on TikTok.
If it looks like too scary, like the thumbnail or the headline, it's probably not from a reputable source. That's a scare tactic to draw an emotion from you to click. That's always a good one. It's always good to do your homework on who these people are. See if they have a meteorology degree or not. If they don't, not the same as if you have someone who has a meteorology degree. And here's the thing. If they don't have a meteorology degree, they can't earn one of these seals either. Now, popularity and reputation are two different things. And that's only been more exaggerated in the past, 10, but probably 20 years with the internet. There's a lot of popular people out there who, don't have the credentials. There's a lot of popular people out there who do have the credentials. So I would say those are the two things to look for. But I'm curious to see what Sean has to say about this.
Yeah, man, I could talk about this with a pint of beer or 2 or 3 pints of beer all night. So let me try to distill it. Know who your source is. Know who your source is. And as Joe said, check who they are. A lot of people will tell you just what you want to hear to get the clicks. I would also suggest always going to a second or third source to corroborate something you hear. Always. There are some weather hobbyists that do very good work, and I appreciate them. And some of them kind of make me check on a couple of things. But not every weather hobbyist is the same. And to be fair, there are some people who have degrees, or maybe they didn't quite finish their degree, and they're out there making noise. And this is why we have the seal, so you can do a peer review. This is what your colleagues think of your work, and if they're going to say, yeah, you're good enough to be doing this. That's the whole point, is peer review. Do you have the respect of your peers doing weather communications, whether it's audio, visual, or print? That's the point. So I think the CDM is one of the ways we can put something out there to go, hey, if you got a question, these people have got the respect of their peers.
I think another red flag, too, is these extremely long-term forecasts that are precise. So anytime you see, a hurricane forecast 10 days out saying this is where landfall is going to be, or anytime you see snowfall totals that are 10 days out or even a week out, that's certainly a red flag, because that has been a trend, too, of people find these websites where they can find long-term computer models. They think this is it. I've got the answers. I can see the future. And they post that irresponsibly without context. And so that's something to look out for. If you're seeing a forecast that's, 2 weeks out and seems too good to be true to get a forecast like that, it probably is.
Yeah, there are people who think that we're always hiding something.
Right.
And we're not. There are limits of what we can do with skill, right? We could say something's going to happen 14, 16 days from now, but how skillful is it? Is there any real value in that? It's what Joe and I do with these longer term discussions. We're like, there's a signal here. There's a signal here. Pay attention to this time frame. We think there's something brewing. Not it's going to snow 18 inches between 9 and 10 o'clock, 14 days from now. And there's sometimes a difference there that not everybody gets initially. So this is one of the things that I hope what we are doing, especially as the science does get stronger, we can improve that and then provide some legitimate value into what people should expect of their atmosphere over the next 10, 14, 18 days.
Yeah, and I think any good communicator, anybody that studies weather communication at all will always stress the importance of conveying uncertainty. This is what we know, and this is what we also don't know, and this is what could change, and this is what we're a little unsure of. So that's always important. I think just, our business has changed so much between communication and digital. I'm excited about the future. I think we're all in a really good spot, and I think it's one of those get on board or you're going to become irrelevant type of situations too. All of these broadcast meteorologists that say, I don't want to do digital. I don't feel like posting on social. This is where it is. This is what we're doing now. And it's going to be the only thing at some point, or a hybrid of the two, as you were saying.
Yeah. And, I think too, like, Leo, I'll speak for myself, I guess, but, like TV's cool. Like, it's cool. You got the studio, you got the cameras, the big lights, you're like, it's definitely a cool thing to be a part of. Right. But you don't have the comfort of sitting in your own house at the webcam. It's two different things. So, television's so cool. And I think I do think there's a number of our colleagues out there who are doing great work in broadcast. And then, we're on these front lines of the next wave. And, who knows, 30 years from now, we might be the, old people who are like, I don't know if I want to change to this. And, there's something else going on.
It's like a big game now.
Who knows, right? I even think about like TikTok, specifically, like I'm kind of on there, but I'm not like on there natively. Like I'm not making native TikToks. It's more just me uploading videos that I'm doing elsewhere and I'm putting them on there. What I will say though, what makes, at least on our weather team side, like job so much easier in terms of getting content out on social that will draw us back to the website is Social News Desk. Love that website. I use it all the time. I pretty much live on it. You can add all of your social profiles to it. Now I have my Facebook, X, Threads, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube all on there. And you can send it out so you can be in all these places at the same time. And you can just change the typing, how much words you want to match the style. Obviously Twitter, X, whatever, is 280 characters. Facebook can go as long as you want. So you can kind of fool around with it. So there's tools out there to make yourself and amplify your voice, multiple times over.
Yeah, we use Sprout. It sounds very similar, but it's
okay,
yeah, same sort of thing.
Okay.
So that brings up a good question. Favorite digital tool for the job that you do? Sounds like Joe, you might have yours decided.
Well, are we counting our Mac system that we have from the weather company? We're doing that. I got my Macs now. I don't know who's going to listen to podcasts. If you're a meteorologist, you'll appreciate this. I have my Mac system right here next to me, down right below my laptop. It's in my house. If you're not a meteorologist, that's a very unusual thing to have. But we're probably going to see more of this in the digital world. But excluding that, yeah, Social News Desk is my favorite.
Sean?
It's changing because the algorithms are changing. Facebook used to be where you could reach a lot of people in a hurry, 10 years ago, 15 years ago almost. But now the algorithms are such that news and weather-related content are de-emphasized in their algorithm, right? And then Twitter got bought by some dude I think we've heard of, and that algorithm has changed. I theoretically, have 6,000 followers, but I looked through and my content was seen by a couple of hundred people. So how much should I spend my time there? Then I go back to TikTok, but then I'll post something on TikTok. It blows up for 6 hours and then disappears. It doesn't get many more views. I have not done a lot on YouTube because I also want people to go back to our company's website for the videos. Threads, I'm just not sure about Threads. I have thought about doing a little bit more, starting a Discord server to reach another audience. So I don't know. Blue Sky has started. I rather like Blue Sky because it reminds me of old Twitter, but that really hasn't reached critical mass yet. So I don't think there is one answer yet. I think Joe's point is probably best here. Social News Desk is throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks the most, because the rules are always changing. And I think that's the frustration from trying to get your message out is I want to get a message out to a lot of people who claim to want to follow me and are interested, but they don't get it because ownership of these algorithms is such that it's hard to get your content in front of the people.
It is. And so I've kind of given up on figuring out what the best one is. Instead, I get excited about the content creation. So Riverside, I know I've heard you guys. I've talked your ear off about Riverside, but yeah, that's my favorite tool right now. Riverside and Adobe, because Adobe has such amazing tools as well. We use it to edit the podcast. We use it for its AI capabilities, even editing. They have Adobe Express now is, a web-based program where you can do all of that. But yeah, I love Riverside, for recording, for editing, for easily grabbing quotes, for transitioning stuff to social media. It's a lot of fun. And I enjoy the whole content creation process more so than the throwing stuff at walls and seeing what sticks.
Yeah, it does give you a chance to expand your horizons, expand your skill set, do text, do video, do audio, do editing, shoot your own video, all these things that you probably didn't do 15 years ago. So it's nice to increase your skill set and frankly, make yourself more valuable in the media ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Not only that, but 15 years ago, I was in a union that did not allow me to touch cameras, that did not allow me to do anything than basically what I was doing on TV, talking and doing weather. So it held me back from learning some of these skills that I now have in my second career, I guess. But is there anything else you guys want to talk about when it comes to digital meteorology before we wrap things up?
Yeah, I just, two things. So, we talked a lot about social, Sean and I, but, our goal, and I'm sure same for you, Emily, is get people back to our websites because that's where our content is hosted. That's where, we get paid from. We have subscribers there who are looking for our content. So, we use social as, the front porch to get people into our website, subscribe. We've seen subscribers come because of our weather content. I think the second thing too, I just want to, the future of this, and we did touch on this, but, we've seen a small, very small, but growing number of people who are doing this on their own with their own studio, who have left broadcast or even left digital, have done this at their own. I remember when I started at the press, I said, we don't have hundreds of $1,000 studio, but we spent a couple $1,000s on making a studio and it looks pretty good. Well, now it's at the point, and, obviously the COVID pandemic shifted this, but now it's like, I could just do this at home in a home studio and, spend a couple thousand or maybe $10,000 to $20,000 in doing it. And people are generating revenue through advertisers, paid newsletters, and doing it. We do some of this me professionally, I should say, are doing this. We have local businesses who advertise with me to get their name on a Facebook post. Our podcast is sponsored as well for a couple of months. So the future is just kind of, it's just exciting. And I just want to go back to, I think all three of us, not to toot our own horn, but I think we're on this wave. We'll see where the wave goes, but we're on the wave for now and things are looking pretty good.
Yeah, I think that's the most exciting part is we don't know exactly how this wave is going to continue or how it's going to break. The rules always seem to be changing. So it challenges you to keep your eyes open, understand how communications and media continue to change, and be ready for what is out there, because there's still a lot that is unknown.
Anything exciting coming up on Across the Sky that we should be listening for?
Well, we'll be going into summer soon. So, we're talking, we'll be talking about beach safety and things like that. I'm actually going to pull up our schedule. We actually have a podcast planner that we have, going months out.
So much more prepared than I am.
Well, Emily, we said this before. You're one person. You're a one woman show. We are a 4-person operation here. So, you definitely have more on your plate than we do. But I'm taking a look at our schedule. I just got to wait for my Google Sheets to slide down. We have coming up sub-seasonal forecasting and a summer outlook. And then we're going to be talking more about hurricane season, beach safety. We try to keep it seasonal, but that's what we have going on. How about you, Emily? What's going on off the radar? And when are you making these Across the Sky t-shirts for us? Because I know you have your off the radar t-shirts.
Those turned out to be way more popular than I had any idea they would be. It was a funny surprise because my husband decided to just have them made, through a t-shirt service and gave them to our entire family. By entire, I mean like his family, my family, extended family for Christmas. And they're so soft and they're so cute. But now I'm getting people who have seen them on social media emailing me or texting me and saying, where can I buy that shirt? So they're not real. They were, just done. Like they were not done through Sinclair, I should say. But as far as off the radar, I like to go week to week when it comes to planning the podcast. But I have a lot of ideas. And like you guys, I try to stay very kind of topical to what's going on. We had tornado special that came out. We'll certainly have one for hurricane season. Sports, we've got all the sporting stuff coming out, golf. And then, of course, as we get into the fall, we'll start talking about fall colors. So yeah, I try to stay relevant week to week. I love to hear ideas from all the listeners as well. So if you have any ideas for podcasts or something you want to hear about, I'd love to hear it. I like to do a lot on space too, just because that's so relevant right now.
Emily, we're going to put you on the spot here. So we do a little podcast bit at the end of our podcast called Across My Sky, where we talk about one thing that's happening in our region of the country that's just unique to the region of the country. So I'm wondering, is there something going on in South Carolina? Now, you and Sean are pretty close to each other in Virginia, I should say. This works out better with our pod. But what's going down in South Carolina that someone in New Jersey might not appreciate?
Something that's ongoing here, and I'm in South Carolina, but I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, the Low Country. So the ongoing problem here always is sunny day flooding. So coastal flooding, high tide flooding, when it's not even raining, and when it does rain, even worse. But I think that's always interesting to people who come here on vacation, and it will have not rained the entire weekend that they're here, but will be in a elevated tide situation where it's full moon or a new moon and they're driving down the street and all of a sudden there's road closures because in Charleston, they just keep the barriers on the side of the road. And we know the roads that are going to close during, an elevated high tide. So that's something that's ongoing here and certainly something that's always happening in the spring and in the fall. So something to watch out for if you're ever along the coastline here in Charleston or in South Carolina at all.
That was a good weather one,
do you sometimes not talk about weather?
We try to keep it not about weather, actually, to be honest with you. But that's fine. Coastal flooding is a big deal here at the Jersey Shore too. So yeah, it's Sean, you want to go?
We end up talking a lot about sports at the end of the Across My Sky stuff. Our local minor league soccer team has their home opener this week, so the weather should be pretty good for that. Actually, tonight when we're recording this. Baseball season, we've got a minor league baseball team that's going to be starting in a couple more weeks. So just spraying, pollen, these kinds of things going on heavy right now here in Central Virginia before the big heat of summer comes. And you're in South Carolina, so you know what big summer heat and humidity are like there.
We flee the area. Everybody from here just flees every summer, go somewhere more comfortable.
In New Jersey, like Memorial Day weekend's like a huge thing. And it's a huge thing in like most of the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. But, I remember talking to my friend who lived in California. He's like, Memorial Day just means like nothing like out in Los Angeles area. Like it's just a holiday. And it got me thinking like, I don't know, like is Memorial Day weekend a big deal in South Carolina, Emily?
I consider, yes, because it's my birthday. But
I
always think of it as like the unofficial start of summer. So that's when all the pools open. It's when people really start going to the beach around here. And then things kind of shut down Labor Day. So Memorial Day to Labor Day. And I feel like things really peak around 4th of July.
All right, here's my question for you, Emily. Where people in Charleston, where do people go to the beach? Because Charleston, I don't think of as being a beach city, right?
So the peninsula, there's no beach on the peninsula. That's downtown, but there's beaches all around. So if you were to go north, you would go to like Sullivan's Island, Isle of Palms, but you really do have to drive like through Mount Pleasant. You have to go over the Ravenel Bridge to get there. The closest beach, I think, to downtown is probably Folly Beach, aka the Edge of America. So you would go James Island, which is over the Edge of America.
The Edge of America?
Yeah. So And then the best beach in the Charleston area is Kiowa Island. So that is my go-to for beaches. It's, in my opinion, above and beyond the best beach. But once again, like probably 45 minutes from downtown.
Got it.
You said it was Kiowa Island? I think I see like 5 golf courses on this island.
Yeah.
I'm on Google Maps.
Yeah,
like
you know,
golf
Joe, I know you're a runner. They have a half marathon and a marathon every December. So
guess I'm gonna have to come down to Kiowa Island.
Yep.
To check it out.
It's very flat.
I'm sure it is. No, yeah, not a lot of hills at the beach. Not a lot of hills at the beach, right?
No.
Well, I think this was a good episode. I think we did well, but we'll see what the listeners think. Ultimately, you, the listeners, are going to tell us how well.
Yes, they will, for sure.
And we ask everybody to follow both of the podcasts everywhere, right?
Totally.
You guys are on all of the platforms. So
All the
we're
places.
all the platforms.
Rate and review us on the Apple, on the Spotify, on all of those places you get your podcasts. Of course, Google has got rid of Google Podcasts, or we're about to, and they're going all YouTube. What we said before, you've got to keep track of how all this is changing.
Yeah.
I got very used to Google Podcasts, and they're like, yeah, you know what? We're just going to put it on YouTube now. I'm like, thanks. Now I got to make changes to settings and all of that stuff. So just got to stay.
Because you're one of those non-Apple people.
I have been invested in Android for a very
Neither
long
am I.
time. There's no
Android
going
Light.
back.
What?
There's no going back now.
Listen, Apple. If you like simple, you like Apple.
I do like simple, Joe. Don't give me a hard time about it.
It's okay. I have these arguments often.
I figured. Off the Radar is a production of the National Weather Desk. Make sure you're following the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes published every Tuesday. While you're at it, make sure you're also following Across the Sky. If you know someone interested in weather, please share this episode with them. We'd also love you to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Let us know what you think of the show and give me ideas for future episodes while you're there. A big thanks to Joe Martucci and Sean Sublett for this fun collaboration. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. Make it a great day.